under both federal and state law is punishable by up to life in prison. It's when you recruit, entice, harbor, in this case, most importantly, transport, provide, or maintain a minor for commercial sex purposes. And as for what is a commercial sex purpose, it's defined very broadly under federal law to be any sex act in exchange for anything of value. And that includes flights, hotel rooms, that includes expenses. These are all things that Matt Gaetz has admitted to providing to his dates, but he is adamant that he has never dated an underage individual. And so for the government to show child sex trafficking, you'd have to show that the victim here was 17 or under, a minor, and that Matt Gaetz knew or should have known of her age. You can't just put on blinders and have, a willful denial of obvious facts. And you've got to tie the hotel rooms, the expenses, the airplane tickets to the sex acts. If you don't get that far, you can still charge him, if the facts bear it out, with the state crime of having sexual activity with a minor. That's a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years in state prison. You could also, depending on the facts, charge someone with solicitation of sexual activity with a minor. That's a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And every charge I've mentioned, if you're convicted of it, not only do you get prison time, but you also have to register as a sex offender. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't have any public evidence that shows that he has committed these crimes. But if you're a public official, the last thing you want is for your name to be associated with the phrase child sex trafficking.
Yeah. Michael Schmidt, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, there's obviously a lot here to play out. There is this investigation of this associate, the Seminole County tax collector. He is scheduled to go on trial in June. He faces an array of different charges that come with all sorts of sentences. So the government has immense leverage on him. So the question will be, what will happen with his investigation? He has hired a longtime skilled Florida defense attorney to deal with that investigation and to try and figure out, the best way out. Interestingly, the Seminole County tax collector is in jail. He has violated his probation earlier in March and was put back in jail, even at a time when federal authorities are trying to keep as many people out of jail as possible because of COVID. So not an insignificant step. So the tax collector sits in jail today, awaiting trial, with the government, with a fair amount of leverage on him. I spent a fair amount of time reading the docket over the weekend about the tax collector, and the government has been investigating him for many, many months, if not more than a year, and has charges about how he was operating as the local tax collector, how he was exploiting his position there to enrich himself and to use the state, his power to even look at things like state databases for his own help, for his own good.
So, Dave Aronberg, just real quick, did anything strike you in Gaetz' performance on Tucker Carlson and what he said? Did anything make sense to you? And what is the potential consequence for the charge that the Justice Department is looking at?
Yeah, Mika, he may have made Tucker Carlson a witness because on his show he said, "Hey, you remember the woman I was with? She was overage," and he was like, "I don't remember any of that." And so that's something that struck me. I think his main defense is going to be that he has never dated anyone underage, and this whole thing about extortion, as Joe correctly pointed out, that's more of a smokescreen for the court of public opinion. That is not a defense to a charge of child sex trafficking. So let's see what the evidence shows. I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot more very soon.